Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I'm Lucas and welcome back to another F1 22 track guide, where today we're going to be looking at Zandvoort, and I have a online Q3 lap which I think is like a 498, I think, which I will be going through. So without further ado, let's watch the full lap and then we'll break it down. So kicking off the lap, in towards turn 1, braking just before 50 metre board, keeping a nice and tight line, smoothly getting on the power, very easy to overstep it on that exit. Car just wants to understeer all the way through this section, so you have to push the front really hard and be aggressive on the traction to rotate the car. Didn't quite get the car as tight as we would have liked through the banked corner, but nice and flat out through this section, making it as straight as possible. Start of sector 2, dropping into 6th, picking up throttle nice and early, carrying lots of speed, missing this apex a little bit. Then there's a yellow flag which was a little bit off-putting, maybe braked a smidge too early. And then short shifting to 5th again after we drop it to 4th. Pushing the traction to the limit a bit, car was squirreling around a little bit. Went to sector 3, plenty of curb, using a tiny bit of curb on the inside as well. Maybe a little bit too much, but getting on the power nicely. One more corner to negotiate, down to 5th, super smooth on the turn in and unwinding the lock, using all the road, saving the distance all the way on the inside. DRS open, and that is a lap of Zandvoort, which was a 498, and we have these. There's the sectors. So there's your sectors there, for reference. Not all 3 of these sectors are, let's say, like PB sectors, but put them all together and they produce a nice lap. Put it that way. So, nice, well-rounded lap that we can analyse. So, without further ado, let's jump into the breakdown, I guess. And I'm gonna have to pause and unpause it because this is part of like a 2-hour full-on clip, so it's gonna be, took me ages to find this clip in the first place, but yeah, anyhow, starting the lap now, breathing very heavily because why not. Right, so heading into turn 1, as I discussed, making sure we're braking. We're literally just starting to brake now. So yeah, just before we get to the 50 metre board. Once we get to the 50 metre board, we should be on 100% brake pressure. Only for not for that long. Once we start really applying the steering lock, we start to unwind the brake, wind more steering in, and drop it down to 4th gear, which is my preference. I like to hold 4th gear through this corner and rev it out in 4th on the exit as well. This is a front limited track, I should also, is also worth mentioning. So there are many front limited corners, and what I mean by that is the restricting factor in terms of performance of the car is the front. You're waiting on the front a lot around this lap. So if we're to look at this minimap briefly, first half of this corner, majorly front limited through turn 3, first half of turn 4, all the way round the first corner of the middle sector, again front limited on entry. Then it's front, super front limited the whole track basically. I could pick out everywhere basically. So we have to push the front very hard on this lap, and that takes a lot of precision, a lot of concise inputs on the steering, on the braking, on the power. It's a challenging track. So we'll play turn 1 smoothly first actually, and then we'll break it down. One key thing, as I breathe heavily again, one key thing that you should keep in mind when driving Zandvoort on F1 2022 or 22, sorry, is you do not take the big high and wide lines on the cambered corners like the real F1 cars do. So round, for example, this corner that we're coming up to, which we'll get to in a minute, we don't take a high line. It's all about keeping the track, the distance as short as possible, and keeping it nice and tight to the apex, which I think is the key thing here. So I'm gonna spam the space bar now because I'm not rewinding that one more time. So heading into turn 1, braking up really heavily, and then we're braking really heavily quite deep into this corner. But once we sort of start to align ourselves with this inside curb, we're peeling off the brakes fully by now if we've done it well, and we're starting to get on the power nice and smoothly. Nothing too aggressive, holding sort of consistent power application, slowly, gradually building it, and we've managed to keep it in nice and tight to the curb. That's the preferred line. You quite often can run in a little bit too deep and, you know, maybe a little bit further out. As long as you're carrying really good speed and get critically a good exit, it should be okay. But the optimal line is when you manage to keep it nice and tight into this corner. And then smoothly, we're full power now, revving it out in fourth. And then on this curb, you don't want to go any further than this. You want to stay in the first section of curb, because if you go any further than that, you will get a significant wheel spin and lose all the time. Heading out of turn 1 now, and then we're using a little bit of curb on the left hand side just to open up. This will be turn 2 technically, I'd imagine, to get into 3. So yeah, turning in is every single time you have to judge the turn-in point. I mean, you've obviously got, you know, visual references here with the, you know, this is the last stage of 3 colours of the curb, I guess, if you want a reference. But yeah, every time you turn in, you're sort of judging it visually, and by this is one of the hardest corners to perfect your clipping point on the apex. So we send the car in, and we pretty much get to the apex pretty well. We could maybe be a slight bit tighter, but we carry good speed in. We're downshifting to fourth. We're dabbing the brakes, and then we're quickly we're basically back to near full throttle for a very, very short space of time. But now, as we're referring to, we don't go all the way around, you know, this big high line. We don't do that on the game. We'll want to keep it down low. That's where the time is. That's how we do it on this game. So down to third gear now, and I don't get in tight enough. It's the tighter you can get into the corner at the end without hitting the curb, obviously, as well, and it should be better for you to V the car off in the middle, where you're, you know, in the middle of the corner, and then you're sort of changing trajectory from going up the banking to back down it when you're Ving it off. So yeah, you were still trailing in, and now we're trailing out. And I mean, the resolution isn't too great, so sorry for if it's not that easy to see the inputs. But we run in, the key thing here is we do actually run in a tiny bit too deep. So I'll play this corner through normally, down to third, and yeah, we missed that first bit by a mile. We get a fantastic launch out the exit, but we shouldn't forgive ourselves too much, because we did not. We got this corner okay, and my mistake was not attacking the corner earlier, so I'm being way too patient on the steering input. We turn in here a bit too late, and it means we're pushing the front too hard, and we go a little bit wide. This is a marginal detail, because we still have a relatively good sector 1 on this lap, but it is not as, let's say, ideal as it could have been. We could have been tighter, and it would have been a very, very, very good sector 1 from that point. So yeah, you want to keep it in tight for that initial part where you're, you know, diving in towards the curb, and it means that you can then, once you get to the middle part of the corner, you want to get on the power aggressively, because you need to rotate the car on this exit. It's very easy to look like you wheel spin on this exit as well, but you really need to try. I mean, we short shift to fourth to, you know, dull that power. We are, I think we're not full power. We're full power now, but we're near full power, you know, from that point we showed from when we short shifted to fourth gear. And yeah, we got the key thing that saved us through that section was we managed to get a very, very strong exit, and we carried good speed even if we didn't optimise the line. That is the end of sector 1, 2, 3, 5 split, and now we're heading into the start of sector 2, this super high speed right-hander. One of the most fun corners on the track, to be honest, as well. And yeah, we tip it. The key for me in this corner is a very, very front limited corner, so we are turning in super smoothly. We are not being aggressive with the input. We want to load up those front tires gently, and we are literally we're downshifting to sixth, getting the car in early, because you're going downhill, so the circuit is going to fall away from you until sort of the end part, where it sort of rises up a little bit again, and you gain the grip, which is where you're really aggressive on the power. But you sort of have to turn in, let's say, better earlier rather than later, which is always tricky because it's a blind trajectory over the top, but it's better to turn in a little bit earlier and you're trying to run literally as close as you can to this inside to the grass, basically. And as you can see already, we were trailing the brake by tiny percentages, and now we're really aggressive on the power now, probably about 80% power now by the time we've met this the start of the inside curb, the sausage curb, and now we are full throttle now, and this is when the circuit rises up. So we know the grip's on its way. Using all the road in the exit wasn't too demanding. We weren't, you know, leaning way too hard in the car, so this was nice and comfortable for us. So, and then for this corner, you want to open the angle up as much as possible for this right-hander, because this is, again, one of the fastest corners and one of the most high-commitment corners on the track that we're coming up to now. So we just we kink to the left, and you can see we are just trying to open up the circuit as much as possible on the left-hand side. A tiny little bit up, you can see the brake input is very, very small. We're down to 6. We do actually miss this apex. You want to be, you know, as tight as you can get it, so that is a bit of time lost for us. But we're getting on the power nice and smooth, back to full throttle about now, as you can see, in 6th gear. And then this is one of the most challenging braking points on the track, because you're not only braking and turning at the same time, but you are you're partly on the curb as well. So if you get it wrong at the wrong moment, or brake too hard, or at the wrong moment, turn in too early at the wrong moment, too much, it can very easily upset the car into this section. And you've got to imagine as well, you've just done a high-speed downhill right-hander, another fast right-hander. Now you've got another right-hander, so at this point you might even end up to start losing a little bit of grip, because your tyres will be, at least on the surface anyway, getting pretty hot. They shouldn't technically overheat in a sense, to the point where you just vanish, oh, I've lost all my grip, but they will be, don't be surprised if you push the limit too hard that you just, you know, you lose grip. So yeah, one thing maybe to bear in mind as well. So yeah, heading into this corner now, you're running along this, well, let's play that section actually through fully, sorry. I keep forgetting to play it all through smoothly, so fully on the power, right to the left, down to the, too slow into this right, well, too wide into that right-hander. Right, so we've played that through, let's analyse it. There we go. So we're full power, and the 50 meter board is your reference. You're braking nowhere near the 50 meter board, but your brake, I mean, we don't ever reach 100% brake pressure. We're probably about, I mean, resolution's not great on this, apologise for that, but it's probably about 70% brake pressure. And then, yeah, we go down to 4th gear. We're actually a little bit too early to this apex. We would prefer to be carrying in a wide, maybe we're talking details, but a slightly wider angle and a little bit less of this curb, which would be preferable, because then we would get a little bit of a better run on the way out. But down to 4th gear, short shifting to 5th, and getting on the power as full power around now, I think it is. Nope, now, sorry, we were very close to it. And yeah, using all the road on the left, not always a critical thing to use all the road on the left, because you still need to bring the car over to the right hand side, but we use it all on this occasion. 5th gear, bring the car over to the right hand side, full throttle. Oh, we're pulling off the throttle now on the brakes, and again, we're not braking super hard into this corner. Probably about 45% peak brake pressure there. I mean, I don't have a telemetry trace, so it's hard for me to judge on that, so I'm sorry for that, but yeah, we're not braking super hard into this corner. And we're holding 5th on the traction, down to 4th again. You can actually do 3rd as well if you want, which I don't think I really did often, if at all. Sometimes I even held 5th through this corner, depending on the situation, but I think 4th to 5th is the most natural one. And yeah, on this lap, we'll play this, well, we haven't played this corner through naturally. Oh, Lucas, steady on. Yeah, so on this corner, we will play it through normally. We actually take quite a wide approach to it. We don't commit way too early into the corner, if that makes sense. So let's analyse that. So we are using most of the track on the right hand side, down to 4th pretty early. And now what you can do on this corner is you can actually commit in a tiny bit earlier if you want, if you're, you know, because if you're carrying in a lot of speed, then you're going to understeer further into the corner. So yeah, as long as you're able to sort of rotate the car off in the middle of the corner, you can charge in a little bit earlier. We take a slightly wider angle on this lap, and we don't, I mean, it's all, obviously we're talking margins, but we don't even get ourselves fully over to the left. But we're short shifting to 5th, and then we're just progressing on the power now. Back to full power just before this frame. And then we use quite a bit of, again, don't want to use any more than that first half of curb. and you can hear the revs going, it sort of like dips a little bit in the middle, probably because we're also using 50 differential as well, so the wheels were probably slipping a little bit left to right. I mean, that was it's quite a weird thing to do through there, to use 50 diff, because it means that if you get it wrong, you're going to get inside wheel slip or a difference in, especially with the curb as well. It's just the way I like to rotate the car on the power through that section to hold 50 differential, or even if it doesn't give you the same outright traction, that was just how I like to rotate the car through that section. So, yep, weird one. So if you let's say if you're copying this, for example, and using the same differential and brake bias and stuff like that when I'm going through the lap, I would recommend, if you're struggling, stay with like 55 or 60 and then wind it down for particular corners if you need it, because yeah, it's quite a particular thing that we did there, but it worked for us, albeit that wasn't the best of a middle sector I've ever done in my life, but it's all good. Keeping now sector sector 2 in split now, going into sector 3, and yeah, your reference point is this. For me, it's the left. It's the curb, because that's what I'm braking right up against. So we're just starting the curb now, and we're braking just a tiny bit past it, because you can actually charge in with a lot of speed into this corner, and unlike real life, you use a lot of this inside curb. You tend to like jump over it. You basically cut all of it. So yeah, I drop it down to 4th gear, so down to 4th pretty quickly, downshifting, and yeah, it's traditional trail braking, and then by the time we're over the curb, we are actually fully off the brake, so holding a consistent steering angle through there. Actually, you can see the rear just, you can see the correction there. The rear was moving around as we, connect back down off the curb, and then we actually turn in pretty early there. I mean, using the curb like that with just the front left isn't actually that bad. We drop it down to 3rd. You can hold 4th through that whole section, but don't be afraid to go to 3rd. It's not a problem. And yeah, it does bounce us out a little bit, but the key thing there was by using the curbs the way we did on this particular lap, we managed to keep the minimum speed up, keep that momentum flowing. Yeah, if you don't use the curb on the left, also not a problem, because a traditional line would literally be, I should probably play this through as normal, apologies for that, but yeah, braking just after that curb starts, using a lot of curb, and yeah, we nibble that curb on the left hand side, which actually helped position the car because we sort of rotated it a little bit with that hop, but yeah, don't be too, it's not critical to hit this curb. If you are a little bit further over to the right after using that curb, you can almost do the corner a little bit differently, so you miss that initial part of the curb, but then you're running at a tighter trajectory through this part, because we are actually not on the apex of that curb after we hit the curb. So yeah, different ways of doing it, but ultimately you just got to make sure you don't lose the car, keep the speed up. It's very challenging. Again, not being super aggressive on the brakes for that left-hander. And then yeah, the circuit rises up a little bit here, so getting on the power, full power now. You don't really often use this curb on the outside. You can usually get the car straight and pointed and gone before you get to that point. And yeah, one more corner to negotiate, and for me, the key thing for this corner is ultimate smoothness, because it is, again, an extremely front-limited corner. On the exit, it can quite quickly become rear limited, as I'll explain, but at least on the entry to mid-corner, you are severely front-limited, which is why, as I'm going to play this corner through naturally first, you'll see how delicate I am on applying the grip, just applying the load, applying the lock on the front. So let's play it. It's fingertip stuff. It is really, really, it's not an aggressive initial turn in. It is just winding on, winding off, pure smoothness. So let's break that one down. So yeah, you want to be maximising the road on the left hand side, which we do. You can go to 4th gear in this corner as well, and again, look how little brake we use. I was always, in terms of a brake shape, my brake shape on this corner was actually quite round almost. It was very everything about this corner the way I drove this corner was very smooth. So if you were to imagine, actually, we'll use the cursor. Perfect. We've got a line in front of us. That's brilliant, right? So imagine this is 0% break, right? And you know, imagine this is like where this is the center point of the corner, right? The apex, right? My break shape goes a bit like this. It's very rounded, so I'll roll that again. Again, this point here is the apex. That is 0%. And let's say that's 100%. This is perfectly lined up. I can't believe this. So yeah, you're literally nice and rounded. No high brake pressures, nice and smooth, and that goes hand in hand with the steering. So just combining these inputs gives me, you know, for a very front limited corner, allows me to get as much front grip as I humanly possibly can. So yeah. You know, down to 5th early again. We do downshift quite early on this track. Not on all tracks do you have to downshift as quickly as this, but on this track I certainly found that. So yeah, you can see peak brake pressure is about 30ish%, maybe a little bit, a tiny bit more. Off the brakes by the time we're already about 50% near enough on the power by the time we reach the point where we're closest to the apex, and then we're winding on the power. Full power just as we are entering this curb, and this is actually technically speaking too much curb, because we are. And this is what I was going to say. It's understeery on the way in, but if you go this far out, you can literally end up in this wall off there. You can spin completely 360. This is a dangerous curb, and we're in 50 diff as well. And the reason I had it in 50 diff is because, you know, I wasn't rear limited for the corner itself. I was front limited, and that's why I'm so smooth, is because I'm trying to get the front grip as I can, and then rotate the car with the throttle. But as you can hear, the revs do spike just there. You can hear it as we disconnect from that curb, as we shift to 6th gear, and yeah, that is it. Saving the distance DRS open and to the line. So yeah, I hope this track guide was useful for you guys. Thank you very, very much for watching, and yeah, let me know how you guys get on in the comments. I always want to hear your feedback on this type of this video, because I'm still sort of learning, even from my side of things, how to basically teach in that regard, how to teach what I'm doing on the lap, and how to, you know, deliver it to you guys. So yeah, any feedback is welcome in the comments below. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hope to catch you guys in the next one, and I'll see you guys next time. So take care, love you all, and what's the word again? Oh yeah, ciao.